Hi, this is Diane Lovetobake on YouTube. And what we're going to make are chocolate oatmeal bars. Now you can make these into cookies if you don't want to use and make them into bars. What I'm using is a 13 by 9 pan, and I've heavily greased it. You could go ahead and use your parchment paper or whatever that you prefer if you don't want to grease your pan. And I like this recipe because, you know, a lot of times when we have recipes that they're 8 by 8 squares, it's really not enough, especially if you have guests coming over or you have a large family or for whatever reason. That's why I like this recipe, because I think that whatever I don't serve that day, I can wrap very well and then freeze them. And I've had them last in the freezer for a good, 2 months or so, 2.5 months. So I kind of like larger recipes for that reason. So let's get started. First, we're going to start off with 1.5 cups of butter. Now, what's interesting about this recipe, I just realized I didn't have my spatula. If you don't have butter or you don't like butter, you can use margarine. And I have used butter and margarine and asked, friends that have sampled it, and there was very, little difference. They all enjoyed it. They all said it tasted good. So I prefer to use butter, but if you have margarine or you want margarine, go ahead and use 1.5 cups of that. Also, I'm sorry I no longer put the recipe below the video, so if you want to jot it down as we go along here, hopefully I'll give the directions clearly enough and slowly enough that you can jot them down, okay? So anyway, just bears repeating after I said about if you want to jot them down. That was 1.5 cups, okay, of the butter or the margarine. The next thing we're going to be putting in, we're going to be using 2 cups of brown sugar. And yes, you do want to pack your brown sugar. You can use light or you can use dark. It doesn't really matter. Whatever you have or whatever you like. And I'm just going to put that all in. Now you can do this recipe with your hand mixer. Again, I always say this, and it sounds like a broken record if you've watched my videos, but the stand mixer for me is quicker and it's easier, and with larger batches, I think it does. It really helps. Now what you'll want to do is cream this, and it might take you 2 minutes, it might take you 3. I'm going to try to speed it along due to the video, of course. And I'm going to warn you, because when I go into a higher speed, the mixer can be loud, okay? So you might want to turn it down or take the earbud out or something like that. Okay, now once you cream that and you break it all up and get it all nicely smooth together, and I have to go for a little bit longer on that, go ahead and you're going to be using vanilla. And you will need 4 teaspoons of vanilla. Now I'm going to turn that speed up so it's going to be a little loud. Okay, now once you have that, it's nicely mixed, looks like that, okay? We will move on to dry ingredients. I'm going to grab my little whisk here. You're going to need, of course, all-purpose flour, and you are going to be using, I really should have my glasses on today, because I just lost my place here. I'm sorry, 2 cups of all-purpose flour, all right? And you're also going to put in 4 tablespoons of unsweetened baking cocoa. Now again, this is unsweetened. This is not what you use when you make yourself hot chocolate in those little mixes. And all you do is add water. This is the unsweetened. And I'm just going to give it a good stir, those 4 tablespoons of unsweetened cocoa. All right. The next thing that we're going to be putting in is 3 teaspoons of baking powder. So 3 teaspoons, I'm sorry. Having one of those days. Next, we're going to be putting in a half a teaspoon of salt. Okay, and you don't have to stir it real well. Just give it a good turn, a good whisk, okay? And now I'm just going to start slowly putting this in. Okay, and what's going to really bring it all together, because I don't know if you've noticed, but we're not using any eggs, is water. Okay, so you're going to put a half a cup of water, just put it all in at one time, and then just keep blending it. And it might take a minute, might take 2. It really depends on the speed of your mixer and what you're using. Okay, and then within a very short time, it's going to look like that, okay? Has a great chocolate smell to it. All right, the next thing to make it oatmeal, of course, is that you're going to need 4 cups of your rolled oats, okay? I'm not using quick oats. I'm just using 4 cups of rolled oats, and I'm going to do it a little at a time at a lower speed. Fold that in. If you don't want to, mix it as I did, it really doesn't break up the oatmeal. I don't think it really, contributes to losing its integrity too much. I like to mix it instead of by hand because I really feel it's more thorough and even. Okay, and this is another thing. You don't have to mix it in your mixer. You can actually take your bowl out and then fold it in. And you're going to need about at least 12-ounce bag of your chocolate morsels, whatever flavor that you want to use. You can use butterscotch, you can use dark, you can use light, milk chocolate, white, whatever you want. If you want a little bit more of a chocolate flavor to them, I would suggest a bag and a half, okay? And so that would be about 18 ounces. But you can get away with a 12-ounce bag, but I prefer, again, I use 1.5 bags, which is about 18 ounces. And I'm just going to put it all in there. And instead of, again, by doing it by hand, by folding, I'm just going to turn up my sound and mix it in. Okay. And it really doesn't break up the morsels, the chocolate. That makes that much of a difference. But if you prefer folding, fold that, the oats and the chocolate by hand. And I'm just taking off my excess here. Okay. And then I'm just going to clean the sides of my bowl and get to the bottom because that paddle tends to miss the bottom sometimes. Okay, I'm missing my big spatula here. I usually like my larger one to move this cookie dough, bar dough I should say. And that's what it looks like, okay? It's just semi-sticky. You can see all those beautiful chocolate chips and the oats in there. Oh, it smells so good. And again, it's one of these recipes when you bake it, oh, the whole kitchen smells so good. Okay, now what you're going to do is you're going to just start putting this in your pan. Okay. And this is where you got to have a little bit more patience. Well, there it is. Now there's my spatula. Okay. All right. Okay. And just, you know, turn it all in. It does feel, you know, a bit dense when you're doing this. But get it in your pan. The real trick is just to make sure that you've, you know, you've even it out. But first I like to get it all out of the mixing bowl. And I always say this, you know, you don't want to waste any. Baking's so expensive these days. So why waste product? Okay. And now with your clean hands, what I do is I just lightly put a little water on my hands. Not a lot, just to moisten them. And then I start pressing it into my pan. Now, if you want to wear your kitchen gloves to do this, you prefer not to use your bare hands, of course, but I still would wet the kitchen gloves a little bit. That way it doesn't stick. And then just with the palms of your palm and the heel of your hand, just start pressing that mixture in. And you can kind of eyeball to see that you've got, you know, the edges and everything's close to the edge of the pan. And if you're heavier in one area, you know, you can just use a spoon or your spatula and pick up the dough, and then just try to even it out so that you don't have real high and low spots. And like I said, if it starts to really stick on your hands more, just add a little bit more water to your hand. You know, you don't want to drip water, right, you know, right too much into the cookie dough. But I think that looks pretty good, and it looks pretty even. And I'm going to wash my hands real quick here. In a second here, I want to show you what it looks like when it's baked up. Now, you're going to put this in a preheated oven of 375 degrees, and you want to bake it just till it's firm. You don't want to overbake them because they'll become too dry, and I don't think you're going to like the finished product. And I generally use a toothpick or my cake tester just to kind of, you know, pull it out and see how much of the cookie is sticking to that. But you pretty well go by the timing and the look of it till it's kind of firm to the touch when you touch it. And it can take you anywhere from 25 to 35 minutes because, you know, all our ovens set up so differently, so it's kind of hard to say, you know, exactly. That's like a time frame. I mean, you might run short you know, of that at 24 minutes. I mean, you might run long and it might take 37 minutes. So just keep an eye on it, that kind of thing. And I bake it on the lower shelf. And then when it comes out of the oven, try not to cut it till they're really cool. You know, put your tray on a cooling rack and, you know, and then cut them. So let me show you the finished product. And these are just a little bit warm. I can feel a little warmth from the pan, but I find it when they're just a little bit warm, if you want to have them then, or serve them and put a scoop of ice cream or vanilla ice cream on top. Oh, they're just, well, they're delicious. They really are. So I'm gonna cut into one of these bars to show you. And what they look like, and I'll plate it here. Okay, first one is always the hardest to get out. And like I said, it is better when it has cooled down. I'm having a little bit of sticking problem here. Okay. Okay, there we go. Yeah, that next one will come out a little better. Okay, and you'll have about a height of about 2 inches on them. When you break them apart, you'll see, in fact, let me just kind of destroy this one a little bit. When you press on it, it's very chewy and very flaky. I don't know if you can see how it just breaks up. Well, it just will melt in your mouth. The top and the bottom of it will have a hard surface, but the inside will be incredibly moist and have a nice medium chew to it. And they're really, like I said, they're really delicious with some, ice cream over them, or just to eat them alone, that kind of thing. You can also dust it with powdered sugar if you want a little bit more of a sweetness, or you could even do a vanilla glaze or a chocolate glaze over them if you want to be a little bit more fancy with them and make them look a little more fancy for the dessert. But there you have it. You've got chocolate oatmeal bars, just great for entertaining or certain holiday or certain occasions, large enough that you won't run out if you're making an 8x8 pan, okay, of them. So I want to thank you for watching Diane Lovetobake. If you try this recipe and you like it, well, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, I'll try my very best to answer in a timely fashion. And this is when I tell everyone, please watch me solely on YouTube. That's the only place that I put my videos. And what becomes frustrating is that when your work, and I'm not alone on that, that's for sure, but it gets pinned, it gets posted, they claim it as theirs. I think the most frustrating part is I see the question, I see the comment, and I can't answer. So if you watch me on YouTube and you do want to, let me know how the recipe went, I'm going to get that, okay? So I want to thank you for watching once again. If you're so inclined and you'd like to subscribe or ring the bell, I can't thank you enough. So stay well and stay safe, and I'll see you soon.